Namaste, and a very warm welcome to all my fellow educators and facilitators joining us for this explainer. I know you're all right in the thick of your rigorous 42-day Technical Teacher's Certificate program. It's quite the intensive journey, isn't it? Well, today, we're going to equip you with something absolutely fundamental. We are going to build your practical psychological toolkit. By the end of our time together, you're going to have 10 distinct lenses to view your classrooms, truly understand your trainees, and honestly, transform the way you teach those complex technical skills. So let's dive right into it. Okay, here is our master blueprint. This maps out 10 different schools of psychology, straight from our source material. And listen, these aren't just dry, dusty historical theories. They are 10 incredibly practical perspectives designed to help us figure out human behavior, thoughts, feelings, and experiences. Whenever you're standing out there in the workshop or a lab, and you're wondering why one trainee is really struggling, or why a certain batch is suddenly excelling, I promise you the answer lies somewhere on this map. Now, to avoid any cognitive overload during this session, we've organized our agenda into 4 practical thematic buckets: unlocking the hidden mind, observing classroom behavior, seeing the whole student, the science of learning, and finally, your ultimate teaching toolkit. So, kicking things off with Section 1, Unlocking the Hidden Mind, the Inner Workings of the Learner. Our very first tool is structuralism. Founded by Wilhelm Wundt, this school is, well, all about structure. Think of it like taking a complex machine engine completely apart just to examine every single nut, bolt, and gear. Structuralism tries to study the mind by breaking it down into its absolute most basic elements. And how do they do this? Primarily through something called introspection. That means asking the individual to look within themselves and report their basic sensations. So when you ask a student to deeply analyze their own step-by-step thought process while they're troubleshooting an engineering problem, you're actually applying a touch of structuralism. Next up, we shift to a school you've probably heard of, Sigmund Freud's psychoanalysis. Now, this lens completely flips how we view a disruptive or struggling trainee. Psychoanalysis tells us that human behavior is massively influenced by the unconscious mind, deeply buried childhood experiences, and hidden inner conflicts. So if a student in your certificate program is displaying some inexplicable resistance to learning, this reminds us that there could be a vast, unseen iceberg of unconscious factors beneath the surface affecting what they're doing today. To round out this first bucket, we have Donald Hebb's biological psychology, and this one is incredibly relevant for technical training. This school explains behavior purely through biology, the physical brain, the nervous system, genes, the whole physical setup. The takeaway here is actually profound. When you teach a trainee a brand new technical skill, like, say, coding a CNC machine or operating heavy equipment, you aren't just giving them information. You are literally triggering physical, biological changes in their brain and nervous system. Learning is quite literally a physical adaptation. Moving on to Section 2, Observing Classroom Behavior. Our focus shifts to actions and adaptation. Notice this fascinating lineage of 3 schools that flow perfectly into one another. They shift our focus entirely to how students adapt to their surroundings, react to stimuli, and respond to rewards. It's a wonderfully logical progression, starting from functionalism, moving to pure behaviorism, and finally landing on neo-behaviorism. Let's break these down. We begin with William James and functionalism. Instead of asking, what are the pieces of the mind, functionalism asks, what does the mind actually do? It's all about how the mind functions, and crucially, how it helps someone adapt to their environment. For your trainees, that technical workshop is a highly challenging, totally new environment. Functionalism looks at how their minds function to help them survive, adapt, and eventually master that space. This creates a really brilliant philosophical contrast. Structuralism wants to freeze the mind, essentially breaking it into tiny, static pieces. Functionalism, on the other hand, argues that the mind is active, and it cares purely about practical, real-world adaptation. As a teacher, you really need both, right? You need to know the basic elements of your subject, but also how your students will functionally adapt to using those skills out in the field. Following that lineage, we hit John B. Watson's behaviorism. Now, this is a massive shift. Behaviorism throws introspection completely out the window. It argues that psychology should only study observable, measurable behavior. The absolute core of this is the stimulus response principle, or SR. As a classroom management tool, this is pure gold. You provide a specific stimulus, say a safety siren going off in the workshop, and you train the batch to produce a specific observable response, immediately hitting the shutoff switch on their machines. It's pure input and output. Expanding directly on that, we have B.F. Skinner's neo-behaviorism. Skinner took that stimulus response idea and added the secret sauce: reinforcement. Neo-behaviorism teaches us how to shape highly complex behaviors over time using targeted rewards. Think about it. When a trainee correctly completes a complicated circuit diagram for the very first time, your immediate positive feedback is the external reinforcement that ensures they'll repeat and perfect that exact behavior. It is behavioral shaping, step by step. Let's step into Section 3, seeing the whole student. We are going beyond just actions and reactions. First up in this bucket is Gestalt psychology, founded by Max Wertheimer. Gestalt is actually a German word that loosely translates to whole or form. This school highlights that human beings naturally perceive things as complete, whole forms, not just a bunch of disconnected pieces. Their famous motto is that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. In your classroom, this means remembering that a student is a complete person, shaped by their entire context. They are absolutely more than just the sum of their technical skills and daily practical scores. Which, as you can see, is the exact opposite of structuralism, where structuralism is obsessed with zooming all the way in to find those tiny, basic elements. Gestalt demands that we zoom all the way out to see the entire system. As technical teachers, you're constantly balancing this tightrope, aren't you? Teaching the precise, tiny details of a craft while making sure the student always keeps the big picture, functional system in mind. Carl Rogers' humanistic psychology beautifully complements this holistic view. I love this school because it is incredibly empowering. It works on the assumption that every single individual has an innate, positive potential for growth. It focuses heavily on freedom, self-growth, and the ultimate goal of self-actualization, basically becoming the best version of oneself. For you, the facilitators, this means adopting a person-centered approach. You're creating a supportive, non-judgmental environment where your trainees feel totally safe to experiment, make mistakes, and unlock their own maximum potential. Moving on to Section 4, the science of learning, processing information and social development. Enter cognitive psychology, spearheaded by folks like George Miller. If you want to design truly effective instruction, this is your playbook. Cognitive psychology treats the human mind almost like a highly advanced computer. It studies exactly how the mind takes in data, processes it, stores it in memory, and then retrieves it when needed. It is intensely focused on thinking and problem solving. So whenever you use visual aids or break a dense technical manual into bite-sized chunks or use repetition for safety protocols, you are actively doing cognitive psychology in your classroom. And finally, we have Lev Vygotsky's sociocultural psychology. Vygotsky showed us that learning is fundamentally a social and cultural act. It absolutely does not happen in a vacuum. A key feature here is the zone of proximal development, or ZPD. This is the absolute sweet spot of learning. It's the gap between what a trainee can figure out alone and what they can achieve with a little guidance from you, or from a more capable batchmate. When you assign group projects, letting trainees collaborate and learn from each other's diverse backgrounds, you are tapping straight into sociocultural psychology. Which brings us to Section 5, your ultimate teaching toolkit, integrating the theories. So the most crucial point we can pull from our source material today is that the integration of all these theories is what actually gives us a complete understanding. You don't have to just pick one school and ignore the rest. Human behavior is way too complex for just one lens. A master teacher knows exactly how to pull from behaviorism for workshop safety, cognitive psychology for their lesson plans, and humanistic psychology for mentoring, all at the exact same time. Taking one last look at our completed roadmap here, from structuralism down to neo-behaviorism, you are now fully equipped with 10 distinct diagnostic lenses. The next time you face a learning gap, a dip in motivation, or a classroom management issue, I want you to visualize this toolkit. Run the problem through these different perspectives. I guarantee you'll find a fresh, effective way to troubleshoot the situation. To capture the entire spirit of our explainer today, I want you to remember this quote: "By understanding the mind, we understand the human being." As technical teachers, yes, you are training hands to build, to fix, and to create. But to truly reach those hands, you first have to understand the mind that guides them. So I'll leave you with a direct challenge as you head back into your cohort discussions for this 42-day certificate program. Which psychological lens are you going to apply in your very next technical training session? Think about your specific subject matter. Will you use neo-behaviorism to drill a tricky mechanical skill? Or maybe sociocultural psychology to get your trainees collaborating better? The choice and the power is completely in your hands. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I wish you all the absolute best in your teaching journeys.